start the panel of the Innovation Arena, and we have here with us Mr. Abdalah Novaes, Chief of Crop Science Digital, Adriana Aroulho, CEO of SAP Brazil, and Simcha, founder of AgroScout from video, will be with us online. José Otavio de Albuquerque Sampaio, CEO of Lockton Brazil. I have here a small presentation, a short presentation of our Secretariat of Agriculture. And you can show the first slide, please. I took office on June 1st, 2021, and reopened all the sectorial chambers. We have 31 of each production chain, and it increased, the number of sectorial chambers increased to 50. We reopened more than 500 houses of agriculture that were closed in the state of São Paulo because of the pandemic and because of other reasons as well. We had a program called Green Basket, 1,623 growers. We delivered 455,000 buckets delivered to vulnerable population, 5 metric tons of food, and we paid 10.5 million to small farmers. We released 400 million reais to credit, mostly to small and medium holdings in the state, emergency credit due to the water crisis we had, and pro-tractor and implement credit. We created 31 local productive arrangements in several and we reached 50 local productive arrangements, joining the production chains. Here, this was a great achievement. There was a law from the year 2000 that we changed this law, and we had 15,000 producers derivatives of cheese and honey, and also cold cuts. We benefited 1 million families and 6 billion reais in businesses. The state of São Paulo has an interesting characteristics. The cheese traveled from here hidden, and they arrived in France and Italy and Spain, and now they can travel in a legal way, respecting sanitary issues of each country, but these products are traveling in a legal way. In the state of São Paulo, where you have the municipalities that have SISM, that sends it to SISM, and which is a new adherence to sell in the entire country. This is a movement of the economy of our state. Here we modernized the legislation for rubber trees, coffee, citrus, equines, and animal transit, except for coffee. Because what happened here, there were restrictions, agronomic restrictions, and there was no reason for these restrictions. São Paulo produced 15,000 seedlings of rubber trees, but we continued to plant rubber trees, and the seedlings were being brought from some other place without adequate health, and coffee is the same thing. Citrus is a permanent battle, which is also regularized with oversight from us and MAP. Adherence to CISB, if you have a CISB, you can automatically migrate to national CISB. It's a great leap that the Ministry of Agriculture took, and São Paulo took an even bigger leap by adhering really fast. thanks to the health issues that were already solved in the state. Investment in research, there is a historical record for Brazil. The highest investment we had was 17 million 12 years ago, and this government invested 102 million in research, paying the salaries of researchers. And it is, oh no, it is not paid for the salaries, it pays for the research itself. For each real invested, 16.23 reais get back to society. Investment in agro-livestock defense with a purchase of 161 vehicles, 550 pieces of IT equipment, and 282 new servers. Agro grew 26.6% last year, but Brazil grew 10.1%, considering this growth of São Paulo. And here, agro accounts for 14% of our GDP. 21% of the formal jobs in the state are in the agro sector. I'm sure you like this part. Rural Roots. This is a program, Rotas Rurais. It's a program in partnership with Google, and we have delivered 393 municipalities. This is a zip code. When people ask you, they ask for a proof of address, you give them your zip code, and you just give the number of the street. And this is the, so you get, for example, Ribeirão Preto, in which 99.7% of the population is urban. And somebody asked, but Ribeirão Preto doesn't need it because everybody lives in the city, but the rural properties are there. They have not moved to the city, and they do not have an address. They have never had an address. So it's 400,000 rural properties that we have mapped. We have mapped more than 50,000 kilometers of roads that existed, but they were not mapped. And now farmers can, online or offline, spot the farm or the main house of the farm and put the digital address for any order they made online, or for a party, for a barbecue, and people can arrive. We will deliver 100% of the municipalities in São Paulo. This is very important for us and for the state, and we want this to multiply to the entire country. This program, Best Way, it's a program that exists for 21. In 21 years, we delivered 12,000 kilometers of perennial rural roads where you have sewage and the water, and the water does not run on the road. We have delivered 5,000 kilometers of perennial rural roads. Here, the biggest investment in research, and here one of the main programs, most important programs, which is the Environmental Rural Register. We are in course. The Environmental Rural Register is self-declaratory. And what are we doing? We processed 100% of all the 400,000 properties. We have analyzed 67% of them, and what needs to be analyzed is that people made this registration during the enactment of the Code of Forestry Code that celebrated its 10th anniversary. There are quilombolas and indigenous areas that are a bit more complex. It is within this 33% remaining. 645 municipalities have been analyzed. 67% are ready, in which a farmer just needs to go there and accept or contest the data of our analysis. And the law of peace. This law of peace here is so important. If you live in São Paulo, you know. We have a problem. We have a land problem, especially in the west of São Paulo, the Pontal do Paranapanema region, which has like 7 or 8 decades without deeds. this during our administration. And our Congressman Rodrigo Garcia said, we want to do this. So when the government wants and the legislators want, it happens. There was a law that was sanctioned on the 21st of July, and we started regularizing. So the state economy is operating, and there is dignity for the people who are there in the land for 70 or 80 years. And many people died without seeing this piece of land where they lived for their whole lives without having legal registration. And now we are in the process of proving the peaceful tenure of this land so they can have their deed of property for that land. So I think this ends my presentation. So the presentations are quick. If you want more details, I am here available to answer questions. Of Abdalah Novaes, who is the leader of Crop Science Digital. Please, Abdalah, the floor is yours. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. First, it is a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you for the brief presentation, Subsecretary. Of everything you said, I think the main thing you said was the investment. There is no evolution without investment. And congratulations on the return that you have achieved so far. Can I please have the clicker? Thank you. In these brief minutes, I would like to talk to you how we at Bayer, we believe that digital agriculture will transform the way we do work agriculture, not only in Brazil, but worldwide. We joke in the company saying that digital agriculture should not have this name, but we should call it decision agriculture, because everything data and technology will enable is that everybody who works with agriculture and cropping will be able to make better decisions and more assertive decisions, which will transform agriculture. When we look back to the past, we need to reinforce the brilliant work that Brazilian growers have been doing in recent years. Here I have the base. Starting in 1970, there was a very important milestone, which was the arrival of no-till planting. It's impressive that to see that in 50 years we delivered now almost 4,000 kilos. This is a transformation not seen anywhere in the world, and that people do not talk about outside Brazil. It's interesting to see that this technology and this productivity curve only occurred because there were two factors. On the one side, innovation, many people creating innovation and new technologies, but the main side is the adoption by our farmers of the technology that was available. Knowledge, innovation, and the application of this innovation was what allowed us to have this exponential curve and make Brazilian agriculture very sustainable. This was in the past, but we have a long way ahead. Everybody who is here has a responsibility not to let this curve become flat. We need to make this curve increasingly more exponential. That's why connectivity plays an important role. In 1940, 50, or 60, we needed this size of land to produce the same amount of grain that this side on the right produces. It's incredible. When we say that we can produce more using less land, it's not a promise. It is a fact that reflects what we have already been doing. And when we look at where we are, we know that we can make even more progress. I don't know if you all know that, but there is still around 30 or 40% variability in production in the same piece of land, and we still lose 30 or 40% with diseases and pests and other problems in the crops. But we have managed to optimize productivity that it will be increasingly difficult to become more efficient in these remaining 30%. And that's where data intelligence, information, and connectivity come. I don't know if everybody knows, but there is not a formula for yield. If somebody promises to have this formula, they're lying. But we can have an approximation of how we build yield. And in our opinion, there are three main factors. First is genetics, to ensure that we have plants that have an increasingly more favorable genetics, soybean, grain, and corn grains, to ensure that this plant that we are putting in the soil is healthier and better and has better qualities. The second factor is environment. If you it's not enough to have a good seed, you need to have a good soil. So production environment is the second of the main factors, and the third one is decision. You know, producing is not easy. You have more than, there are people who say 1,000, I would say more than 100 is already a lot. Decision after decision, and it's not easy to know if our decisions are correct. When we combine these three factors, we realize that digital and data are not that. There is no data, but the digital will enable us to have increased efficiency in these three factors. So you use data to know if this environment is healthy, to see if this genetic, if I'm exploring this potential, if the decision that I made was good, and the digital enters the stage. When we look at research and what is happening in the crops, we see this this is a reality. The author of this research, it is a U.S. research that shows that in 4 years, the blue bar is 2017 and the orange bar is 2021. There are the main decisions regarding the crops. You see that in 4 years, farmers doubled the use of data in their decision making. You see this in 4 years. Can you imagine this in 10, 20 years? So we need to make decisions today that will have an effect in 10 years. So farmers have learned that if they use technology and digital, they will be able to optimize the three main factors that I showed before, and other factors too. And this is already happening. And what is even more brilliant is when we bring this to the reality. Many of you know in Brazil that we have a productivity course called SASB. It basically, it's a contest. What does this contest? It gets lots of farmers to enroll in a contest, and it says who is going to win, who produces more. In 15 years, the champion got 80 sacks of soybean from hectare, and now it's getting 130. So what is the maximum potential that we can achieve? But when we go to the average, this average increased, but increased a lot less. We are making agriculture more sustainable, but not in the same form that as fast as there is innovation. I joke that this graph is an alligator mouth and it's opening. So we need to help farmers close this gap. We can go further. Why are we not going as far as we could? There is cost and technology and information, and that's where the digital comes in. The orange line has data from our digital platform, FoodView. There is the buyer platform, and it shows that customers who adopted digital technology consistently over the last 3 years have been producing at a faster pace than the average. Is it the digital who is doing this? No, it's not digital. It's not only because I used a platform that this platform brought more productivity, but it's the farmers who are using, collecting information and transforming information into these three production factors. So we have begun a journey that will not be a linear journey. It will not be an arithmetic progression. It will be a geometric progression journey. The farmers are producing a lot more than yesterday. So just an example to make this tangible for you. This is a picture of our platform of one of our clients. On the left, we have the picture of this crop, of this farmer's crop in 2020. In 2020, he had been producing corn for many years. He planted with the same population of corn. Every year he planted the same way. You see it's all red. It represents 2 years later, he started looking at technology and the data and the way look at the way the farmer is planting now. It's the same. You see, there are places that are dark green, light green, and yellow. So he learned about the production environment and the genetics, and he put in the inputs where he needed. This is sustainability, to use the information that he had in the red side to plant differently. 2 years later, this is the result. The farmer was now harvesting 150 bags, and now he harvested 262 sacks of corn in the same area, using the same inputs, making the same decisions, the same amount of diesel, the same amount of rain. He was able to increase production by 50 sacks of corn. Imagine when he plants soybeans. So when we talk about sustainability and innovation and use of data, it's so that we don't have thousands of examples. We want to have millions of these examples in Brazilian crop and Latin America and worldwide. This is an example that makes it tangible, that we can be sustainable, producing more in the same volume and be more profitable. I'm sure this farmer is very happy because he made more money in the same piece of land. And here it brings data from the system. So the data will allow the company not only to help farmers inside the crop, it will allow the farmers to start working directly and change their relationships with organizations and invent technologies that we didn't exist. It will enable farmers to find funding in a different way. Imagine these farmers that will have more technique. He will get better rates than others that do not use technology. So technology will enable farmers to unlock value beyond the farm. And finally, the biggest takeaway that I would like to leave you with is that we need to take more knowledge. As you've seen on the first slide, it is knowledge that makes us advance. Its digital education is essential for farmers to understand that it's not a plus, but it's something that will enable us to create more value with what they already have. And also support entrepreneurship, startups, to make the ecosystem work together. So we say that we in the agro, we need to get closer to industry outside our system. For example, Bayer entered into a partnership with Microsoft because we don't have all the knowledge we need. So why not make partnerships with people who can help and the battle to reduce costs? We have a lot of cost in Brazil. The Brazilian cost is very high to import technology and bring technology. And the higher the cost, the fewer the farmers who can use them. So these are the factors that our society and industries should work towards, so we can transform examples like this into truth, and it's something solid in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Bem, como você
Well, you were very brief, and that saved us some time. So I have one or two questions for you. You talked about direct growth. You also talked about growing on harvesting on straw. How do you see the integration of farmers and forests? I think farmers will always have to make a decision. And with the minute that they realize that the decision is good and profitable, they will stick to it. Not only financial return, but the legacy, sustainability, and so on. So I do believe that there are studies proving that the systems are very efficient. And so if we can leave a legacy for them and generate results for them, I think they will make the right decisions. Farmers have been investing millions and millions in machinery, and they decide to invest 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Why? Because they know that they will have a good return of their investment. So I think that's what it's all about. It's if they have good return on their investments, they will be early adopters. So growing over straw, how do you see the concentration of carbon, of CO2, carbon? So here at Bayer, we've been leading one of the biggest carbon programs, and we've been working with several people. In Brazil, we have a partnership with 6 universities, over 80 researchers, to be able to answer your question. Because in regards to carbon, we need to have reliable data. A lot of people talk about carbon, but we cannot overpromise and underdeliver. We must have everything based on science and tangible things. We still don't know the answer to that question. Perfect. Great. So I have a remark to make. We don't use a safrinha anymore as an expression, right? Because for 3 sacks of corn, one comes from the second harvest. So the safrinha became one of the main harvests in Brazil. Interesting integration system in tropical weather and temperate weather, mild weather. So Brazil is a leader, is a market leader in the tropical market, and it also exports this technology to the world. We have cutting-edge technology. Thank you so much, Abdalah. Congratulations on your presentation. And Adriana Aroulho, she's the CEO of SAP Brazil. So you can make your remarks and deliver your presentation. Thank you so much. There you go. Let me just find the right slide. I've skipped a few slides. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Secretary. It's such a pleasure to be here with the other panelists. Not only for me, but for SAP. It's a great opportunity to be committed to the agribusiness. It's great to be here and tell you what we've been doing in such an important industry, an industry that feeds the world. So I'd like to talk a little bit about SAP, and then after that, I will expand to what we do in agribusiness. So our purpose as a company, what is our purpose as a company? For the ones who don't know us yet, we are a software leader in the market. We've been around for 50 years. Our headquarters are in Germany, and we've been in Brazil for over 25 years. Including this year, we have an R&D in Rio Grande do Sul state. We have teams exclusively dedicated to finding solutions for the agribusiness industry. We support companies of all sizes, and we understand that our role is to help companies to become smarter. And how do we help companies to become smarter? It's not only about being digital. A smarter company is sustainable, is diverse, is innovative, and this is the role of technology, is to help these companies to do all that. So we are not only a technology company, but we worry about people, and that's our purpose as a company. We worry about people. And 3/4 of the GDP, the worldwide GDP, goes around technology. So what are the customer imperatives and what our customers face? They face business transformation. Abdalah has mentioned here what happened in the last decades. This is real already. It's been happening in several fields of agribusiness. I think the pandemic was a very eye-opening experience, and supply chain has never been so challenged. And how are we going to do that? We need to do that in a sustainable way. There is no other way to do that. We depend and rely too much on natural resources. We must find ways to produce more efficiently and to be more aware of our planet. So in regards to technology, we say that we have a contingency plan, right? There is no plan B for our planet. We need to use collective intelligence so that we can find ways and better solutions. So our vision is to enable these enterprises to become an intelligent and sustainable enterprise. And this is no different with agribusiness. There is this integration of the supply chain, and it has become a reality in Brazil and in the world. Technology plays an important role when it comes to integration and connectivity. Sustainability as well. I'm going to stress sustainability at SAP because we believe that there is no other way. This was the first global company that started reporting its social environmental results back in 2012, even before ESG practices started being implemented. So we are Dow Jones leaders in regards to sustainability index, and we take this seriously. So our vision is that sustainability cannot be improvised, right? It should be rooted in the corporate culture, in everything that the company does. Solutions, for sure, but operations and investments, especially social investments. And what do we need to do? We need to be coherent because we need to focus on sustainability, and there are two pillars. The first one is enabling, of course. In agribusiness, we need to enable farmers, and we know that constantly all farmers, they are constantly working for sustainable solutions, and they need to serve as a role model. Of course, there is a global impact, not only in Brazil, Germany, but other countries. We must focus on sustainable growth and sustainable development. We cannot only support with technology, but I need to be a role model as a company. I need to focus on renewable sources of energy, on the fleet. I need to have a electric vehicles fleet. So there we must be coherent when it comes to being a company. So we need to do the talk and walk the walk, if you know what I mean. So let's talk about data, because this is what this discussion panel is all about. We have been talking about data, and it's all about data, right? So oftentimes when we talk about sustainability and positioning, brand positioning, I get this question: what does sustainability have to do with technology? It has everything to do with technology. Anything that you want to do, you need information to get it done. So in agribusiness, you have a big dichotomy. On one side, you have very sophisticated technology, drones, surveillance cameras, and so on. But you also have, on the other hand, a very elementary technology. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a research. We carried out a research, an online research, showing farmers' vision and companies' visions. So one of the conclusions of this research was that 84% of the respondents said that they already work with some kind of technology in their production process, but they can't use all this available data and turn this available data into information that can help them make better decisions. So it's about actually using this data and changing this data into information, useful information. You know that agro is very popular right now. Agribusiness is very popular, but technology can be a very important tool. A colleague here talked about research and development, and I think there is no way back. We need to keep on investing in R&D, especially on data, technology, so we can enable that growth and also analyze some behavioral patterns as well. We've been analyzing and assessing agribusiness for many, many years, so we are able to provide the right data. And the data is capable of increasing productivity, by the way. It's the result of a set of things that we do and we implement. So we need to have better information to make decisions. I need to have a better use of my resources. So technology, once again, plays a very important role in regards to efficiency. The current technologies, artificial intelligence, big data, everything is available. But it's important to blend this with the data collected and ask yourself, how can it be done so you can have a better decision making? So data here in the supply chain, I'm going to stress once again, you have a network to exchange information, and this is elementary, this is fundamental. Consumers are willing to pay more for products that are traceable, and it has to do with sustainability. Without technology, this cannot be done. And when we talk about sustainability, the first thing that comes to mind is environmental sustainability, but we need to also take governance into account. When we look at the co-ops, we see that these corporations, they are talking about becoming publicly traded companies, and they are more focused on financial topics as companies. So we need to use data, statistics, technology all together, and all combined, we will have a better supply chain, a better agriculture supply chain, not only better, but efficient. So we have digitalization challenges in the new era, and the 5G will play a transformational role in this era. There is research available pointing this out, and there are challenges in regards to digitalization, of course, but there is a certain unbalance in regards to having access to technology. So we rely on labor work, and labor work is something quite challenging in the urban areas, but it's even more challenging in the rural areas. We have a deficit in regards to labor work. So we have to be constantly investing in training, professional training. But anyway, 5G is not only a button, it's a journey. It's going to take time. But as we start implementing this technology, and as this technology is available, we can embrace it and we can grow faster. It's going to be a transformational journey for agribusiness. And just to wrap it up, I would like to talk about the trends, and I will point out some of the data here. Agribusiness is one of the most important and most strategic activities, economic activities. For us as a company, there's coffee, tea, chocolate, very impressive data here. In Brazil, more than 90% of the meals use SAP technology. So we are very proud of that. We know that we are also very responsible for that. But once again, I'd like to thank for the opportunity to be here, for being here. Thank you so much.
Just a minute to make an ad here. Can I go back? Yeah, I'm leaving you with a QR code, so you can learn more about our solutions for agribusiness and our countless success cases. So please access our QR code and come and talk to us after the presentation. It will be a pleasure. And Adriana, let's make use of the time. Agro is poppy, agro is tech, agro is everything. But pop is really our farmers who are brave, really brave, and have made advanced and in our land over land that was degraded by the nature in our Midwest region. So yes, it is pop. It has transformed agro into pop. So this is our homage to farmers. I'm very happy that SAP is coming now with all the respect that this company has in the world. So I'm very happy that you're entering the agro business. And we have some connectivity problems. There was once a bid for the privatization of the sector, and we did not consider the rural area. And I don't even mean the rural area. I mean the access of the main roads, highways in the country, where we lose connection and with every kilometer, regardless of the operator we are using at the time. I will conclude moving forward. I will move forward so I can ask you a question. So if you take, for example, the truck drivers who live inside the truck, they have a family, they need to talk to their children, their wives, send pics to make a transfer to their families, make a financial transfer to the family, and they don't have connectivity. When we talk about 5G, sometimes we don't even have half a G in a stretch of Bandeirantes which is so close to here. What can we do with all the technology that is available, with the maps that Abdalah presented, with the technology inside the machines, embedded into the machines, without the connection to generate data that transform into information that in turn is transformed into economic maps to seek increased productivity? I know your answer will be very difficult because my question was very complex because it depends on public policies. Secretary, I used the word journey in my speech. I think it is a long journey. And that's why, with all these difficulties, we have an optimistic view of the revolution that 5G can have over time. It's not a single action, it is a group of actions and players. The company have to play a role, the government has to play a role, because connectivity resolves from trivial issues, for example, the examples you mentioned, and digital inclusion, because of one of the problems I mentioned has to do with the deficit of labor shortage. When I have more connectivity, I can train people remotely, digitally. So it enables digital inclusion. It will enable us to take technology, current technology, cloud technology as a service, which also touches a point of high investments. Cloud solutions are more accessible to most people here. So it is a long journey. It would be beautiful if we can have all this ready from one day to the next. But I think for the technology to be available, the whole ecosystem needs to embrace it. Well, thank you very much. By principle, in our secretariat, we do not announce projects. We announce programs when they are available. So we will have surprises soon. São Paulo will be connected, fully connected. So this opens more space for private enterprise to continue developing in our state. I would like now to call our friend João Otavio de Albuquerque, who is the CEO of Lockton. Well, Secretary, thank you very much for the honor to be here. Thank you, the organizer and my fellow panelists, to give an idea of how the insurance industry, through big data, help foster the agricultural market in Brazil. Here we look and we talk about Lockton in the world. What are the best practices in the world that we could bring to Brazil in terms of insurance and practices to develop here? So Lockton is a global company. We are present in 125 countries in the world. We have access to several types of insurance, and we are focused now on agriculture. We are one of the largest insurance companies in the world. Our headquarters is in Kansas, the U.S. We have considerable investments in Brazil. These are Lockton numbers, but I will go through them really quickly. But I think the best is to focus on what insurance can do for agribusiness in Brazil. And we have here a large investment we're making in Brazil in agribusiness with a large group of executives focused not only on insurance, rural insurance, but also on the parametric insurance, which is insurance that brings indexes and data as parameters for us to have an objective view of the risk and bring this to farmers. What is the insurance market nowadays? This market has a penetration of 6% of GDP, which is nothing compared to the 27% of agribusiness. So what are we trying to do to bring the culture of insurance to farmers and large companies in the sense of being able to transfer the risk and have a security in this confidence in this transfer? So how do we do this? We have data. The data we capture in Brazil are EBGE, and Embrapa, and some co-ops. And this data model the insurance, which now have a very small penetration in Brazil. The penetration of insurance is very low. So if we create public policies to help rural insurance, the São Paulo state government and the Paraná state government also help develop this. But the quality of data prevent us from having more accessible costs. So we need to be able to develop insurance towards this culture to make people assimilate this culture, because the mass volume makes insurance become more affordable. And this helps farmers become more focused on their core activity. And the risks would be taken on by the people who are willing to finance them in case of climate problems, weather problems. And in Brazil, we have a serious problem. Insurance is more treated geographically in terms of rather than properties. What my colleague said of SAP about the 5G issue is going to be essential for insurance. If you can put markers in this continent-sized country, and you are able to collect reliable information that we can use to model insurance coverage and massify this at a more affordable cost, we are going to get a lot more scale, and we'll have better distribution through banks or channels or co-ops. We'll be able to access the field and create this database not only through state and federal agencies and universities that provide data for us to model insurance, but we will also have this. And this is very important. We will talk about insurance that we have now as parametric insurance based on indexes, which are objective insurance, that if you reach the index, the claim is paid. So if you have a frost or extreme weather events or yield problems, everything is prefixed in your history in the data that are collected. Nowadays, it's very expensive with satellite to be very precise. So you use state mechanisms and federal mechanisms and the universities to have this data and do this. So the creation of a large database will massify this and will improve the quality, because insurance has an important social role. It is rebuilds things. It wants to get the activity back to the level it was before the accident or the extreme weather event happened. And it takes us to go back and employ people and the supply chain, and it contributes to that. And in addition to increasing reserves that are used in the country's production chain. So insurance is very important. I'm skipping the presentation because it is a lot more technical. It will be available for you. ESG is very important for insurance today. There are reinsurers who want to get into Brazil, but who look at this sustainability issue very carefully. So this is something that insurance will help. It is an important role of us of bringing the culture of insurance to farmers and large companies so they can disseminate this and have a protection mechanisms with a good benefit to cost ratio for everyone. So it's very important in this economic chain and in this market. For you to have an idea, the insurance market is 50% automobiles, and this trend is changing because the young people are changing the concept of ownership, and they prefer to use it using public transport or Uber or another form of transportation. Before, people, if you are my age, people my age, and maybe not you because you're still young, but people my age, everybody wanted to reach 18 and own a car. And now young people want to go out partying and they want Uber and they want public transport. So the insurance has to follow this trend and help agribusiness and massification and culture to reach where we want to reach. So this is our function. This is our role. The issue of information is very important. The more reliable and more predictable things are. I know weather is something that is impossible to predict, but we may have historical data. We know that in the insurance market, maybe this is new, that you have 5 years, of which 2 are very good. So you have to need to have a medium and long-term action to build a sustainability relationship and attract these people to massify and bring things, to bring the business and to grow in insurance together with a planted area. And also go beyond the southeast. Look at the size of Brazil. Brazil is a continent-sized country, and there are many entrepreneurs outside the southeast who contribute to our wealth, to our development, to entrepreneurship in Brazil, which is huge. And this is what we have to encourage. And I think if insurance makes things predictable and safe, saying that things are protected, it will expand and it will make entrepreneurs feel safer, feel more confident to continue invest and bring wealth to the country. Thank you very much, Secretary and my fellow panelists. This is the idea that we are trying to transmit as Lockton here in Brazil, trying with the other colleagues and competitors, trying to break into this insurance world and create more opportunities for all.
Thank you very much, Jean Tarde. Thank you. And I have a question for you. When you talk about insurance in Brazil, especially land insurance, you face several problems. When you look at Midwest, you have a more stable weather. But if you analyze São Paulo state and the other states below, we have drought, we have heavy rains. So how you guys from insurance companies, how do you manage that? Because when you look at Midwest, you have a more steady harvest. If you grow, you are pretty sure that you're going to harvest and you're going to have a great harvest in the right window, right? So chances are that you're going to have a better production, better yields. How do you manage that? Secretary, I think that the good guys pay for the bad guys and vice versa. So the market now has a lot of has been paying a lot of premium prices because of the frosts, because of the weather conditions. And I hope that my colleagues here can develop tools so that we can manage with a more accuracy, so that we can work our prices much better than we do. But answering your question, unfortunately, the bad ones, they pay for the good ones and vice versa. Yeah, so this was my question actually. In theory, in the Midwest, they don't need insurance, right? And how does it work? You can you have a balance? Do you think that the guys in the Midwest they will pay for the guys in the South? Actually, the more data we are able to collect, when I mentioned this paramedic insurance, it's a customized insurance. We have a geographic insurance, and as we change it, farmers, some farms are huge. They have more than 100 acres, and there is just one index, but we should have different indexes. Yeah, we even have some farms that are over 500 hectares big. So it's almost the size of a small country in Europe. Anyway, so you have microregions within a region, and every time we talk about technology, our colleague here mentioned 5G, the importance of 5G, and the importance of connectivity. So this can also be applied to parametric insurance. It's a challenge that we have. You know, the good guys pay for the bad guys and vice versa. All right, so thank you very much. We don't need 5G, I think, huh? I think we have 700 megahertz with the 4G, right? Because we no longer work with the analogic system. It's not as expensive because it's already available in Brazil. It doesn't take much for this to work, actually. So we need public policies, suitable public policies, because 4G would work, let alone 5G, right? But anyway, so now I'd like to hand it over to our dear friend, Simcha. He is the founder of AgroScout. Simcha.
Good afternoon. A pleasure to be with you here from the north of Israel, not far from the Sea of Galilee, where we've been doing some agriculture for the last few thousand years in a great way, but not good enough anymore for the amount of food that we need to grow. And thank you, Minister, for having me and for the conference and my fellow people on the panel. Amazing stuff was just mentioned here. And I want to talk about my journey. I spent many years in defense. And for some reason, governments in the world, they spent a lot on defense. And defense has gone great ways forward. And now it's time to take all of that to agriculture. So I'm trying to take the know-how that I've learned in defense and bring that to help the people that grow our food grow more food in a more sustainable way. Our farmers do a great job, and they've been revolutionizing and jumping forward time again and again. Every time the population has grown, they've supported that. Now they need our help through technology. And today we're in the midst of a tremendous revolution. driven by robotics and artificial intelligence, like nothing before. And this is our job to help every farmer and every hectare get the finest insights out of that amazing data that we're collecting, again, to support what they're doing. We're not replacing the farmers or the agronomists. It's about helping and supporting them and not throwing all this data at them. And you'll see we're collecting data like never before. Sorry. And it's about giving them those insights, and they will make the decisions according to those things. So today, the farmers, the agronomists, our processors are under tremendous pressure to grow more food because our population is growing, and we have new consumer preferences. And on the other side, we have greater challenges in climate, in water. We spoke about connectivity and other things and regulations. We want to use less chemicals, but we still want to grow more. And this is where data and big data can help our farmers. Today, we collect data like never before. I assume most of you know that we cover every inch of the earth every day in better and better resolutions. Things that a few years ago only defense of certain countries might have had, we can bring down to the mobile phone of every farmer and agronomist. We have new robotics. We have endless means of small commercial drones. You can order this on Amazon anywhere in the world, also in Brazil. I had the honor and pleasure to be in Sao Paulo last month, and we just ordered it on Amazon. We got it the next day. Farmers are getting the hang of using these kind of technologies. They're simple to use as long as they bring them value. And the smartphone. We talked a lot about connectivity already in this panel. The main common denominator to anyone that's in the room and anyone in the farm, and the majority of the 1 billion, not 1 billion, the 500 million farmers in the world, the most common denominator between them is the smartphone. So we need to bring the data, the insights, and enable those actions that they can take to their mobile apps. So all of this data is just tremendous noise for those people that need to make those decisions. Giving them a satellite image, drone reports, or data every day is not going to help them make decisions. This is where we use cloud computing and artificial intelligence. They're not smarter than the agronomists, but they can do it endless times. So if we can train an algorithm to understand, doesn't mean to understand, to detect a pest or disease in soy or in corn, it'll take us a long time to do that. But once we did that, we can feed that cloud server millions of images of every plant in Brazil or in the world, and it will find that disease. It's not going to do it any better than a good agronomist, but it can do it endlessly. And that's the main power of these new technologies, the ability to be able to do endless data collection, but even more to be able to bring that insights like the best agronomist or the best farmer to the palm of their hands, to every farmer in every hectare in the world. When we talk about data, when we talk about looking at the fields like never before. So just from looking at these images from the drone that we can put together, we start to detect problems that the farmer walking in the field doesn't have the time and probably won't even see this when he's walking around. So we have problems in the drip irrigation. Here on the left, you can see a plot that wasn't getting any irrigation. The color changed just a bit. The farmer was in the field, didn't see that. He might see it in a week when it's all lost. But we were able to send them out here to see that the irrigation line was cut. These are simple things that can help them change those things. If we look at the plants coming up, smaller farmers, smaller fields, they'll go out and replant these places, okay? And if not, they'll at least start to get some sort of prediction of what they're going to get at the end of the season. So they might have thought that they planted a certain amount of plants and they're going to yield a certain amount of tons, but if they've lost some of that already at this stage. They already know that that's not what they're going to get. That was like a half a meter resolution from the satellite, centimeter resolution down at the drone, and we drive that drone all the way down to just above the canopy of the crop. You're looking at millimeter resolution, which is similar to eyesight. So an agronomist or a farmer walking in the field, he might see 100 plants, hundreds of leaves. A drone flying over just above the crop can capture millions of leaves, drive that up into the cloud. As soon as we have the 5G in the field, let's see when that happens, then we can give them the answer right away. But if not, when he gets back to the farmer's house, he can upload that data to the cloud, and that cloud computing can go over millions of images and find these problems around the field and then generate it back to his mobile eye. At the end of the day, he needs to be able to walk out there and see the problem through his own eyes and see how severe it is. But the earlier that we can detect problems, irrigation, fertilizer, disease, and pests, the better decisions can be made. And those decisions are enabling our farmers to reduce inputs at the time and grow in a more sustainable way and grow actually more crop per hectare. When we look at the finest farmers in the best conditions in the world, they grow twice the amount of tons a hectare than the majority of the farmers in the world. If we could take the best practice of the best farmers, the best research, the best agronomists, and make that available to every farmer on every hectare, on every plant, that is where we will make the difference. That is where we will go from statistical looking at the field and putting out cocktails of chemicals over the entire field. If we look at data and make insights and intelligence almost at the plant level, we're enabling the companies that and technologies to now go to almost plant level treatment. For example, this is a project we just finished in Brazil with one of the largest tractor companies in the world. Instead of spraying the entire field, they asked us to create a heat map of where this pest is in corn. The only challenge here is this pest works at night. We don't see anything at night, but we were able to detect the damage the pest is doing here to the corn. You see here in the middle and on the sides here. And then we did a traffic light of 30 by 30 meters squares of the field. And then they went out and found a very high correlation and only sprayed the red boxes. Less than 50%, a reduction of more than 50% of the chemical going out on this field. And that is the kind of disruption we need to enable our farmers to have. Our farmers don't have the time to go look at every square. We need a tractor or a drone that can go out, for example, in this case, a drone that can go out and spray almost those smaller areas in the field. You can see here the wind from the drone has turned over the leaf, and we get insight into the eggs of this beetle. And usually the pests are going to be under the leaf, not on the leaf. The wind from the drone flying so low from the crops is turning over those leaves, giving us visibility into what's happening under the leaves, similar only to a person walking around the field. But this robot, this drone, can fly around the entire field. And then the algorithm can look at all of those images. It's not going to do it better than a person. It's just going to do it endless compared to the person. And you see here the spreading of this beetle over a field of 50 hectares. It's not something a person is going to be able to monitor. Today, we spray the field 4 or 5 times a season, every time we see a beetle pretty much. Now, the farmer is skipping all this spraying, and now he's only spraying less than 20% of the field with a drone. Those are the kind of technologies that data and big data and artificial intelligence are enabling us to bring to farming anywhere in the world. Aggregating all of that data from the plant level, leaf level, field level, up to the entire farm or corporate or cooperative in a region can now bring monetization to that data. We talked about insurance. We talked about finance of agriculture. This will enable those banks and those insurance companies to be able to give a better service to those farmers and to be able to reduce the risks in giving financing and insurance to farmers. Aggregating all of that data together gives us also insights into crop readiness. When are we going to pick the field? How much are we going to have? And this again goes to that farmer be able to maximize on the money he can get from a processor or a provider that wants to buy that crop and give him more money for what he can show that he is going to yield. All of that data that we're documenting of what's happened in the field can now help that farmer get the carbon credit for what he's done over the season. Every time we show that he reduced the inputs, he can get credit. Every time that he increased the yield per hectare, he can get credit. Every time he showed and we documented the cover crop for us, for our use, to see if there's problems there, he can now show and get some sort of carbon credit or insetting with the processor or the cooperative he's working with, and help him meet sustainability goals. We talked about digital. Digital divide is relevant also for our farmers, the people who grow our food. We have to be able to bring it to them in almost language agnostic. So obviously it's in all languages, but imagine the person in Brazil looking at it in Portuguese. He might be working with a seed grower in Switzerland or an agronomist specialist from Bayer in Germany. And they're each working in their language on the same data and generating the same report, but everyone sees it in his own language. So I've seen it time again and again in different countries. Language is still a basic thing that we need to bring to everyone. And farmers are no different in that. They want to have it in their language and they want to have it on their app because that's where they want it. That's where we all get data and things that we make decisions on. Thank you so much for your time.
First, our deep respect for everything that Israel sends us and makes available to us in terms of technology. I am being pressed for time. There are people controlling our time, and I think it's necessary. So I would like to ask you a question that came from the audience. We are preparing people. Are we preparing young people to deal with these modern things? Who would like to answer? I think so. And maybe not at the speed we need it. But these days, I saw a piece of information that I was very interesting that said that the average age of Brazilian farmers has been declining year after year, and the average age of U.S. Farmers has increased year after year. And this will bring two opportunities. The first opportunity is that the way we work or the way farmers work is going to change because there will be a new generation that will be a lot more open to topics like the ones we discussed here. But also, if we lose the timing and we don't train these young people, we may miss this opportunity. So here at Bayer, we are creating several initiatives to ensure that we will be able to talk to these new farmers in a different way from what we used to do in the past. And I'm sure that digital is a nice entry ticket to talk to this generation. So for us, it would be that. So now, first lady, Adriana, please, your final remarks. Well, we always learn so much in these exchanges. I think it's fundamental. I think I will repeat myself a little bit. Technology plays a very important role. It enables all these transformations here, but the intention always has to do with human potential. So it is a work that falls upon all of us, and I'm happy to be here participating in this dialogue in this very relevant industry for Brazil and the world, that is agribusiness. So I reiterate my commitment that technology offers a lot of possibilities, and digital is a one-way trip, and is a no-return trip. And I would like to say that this is a journey. Secretary, thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to say that entrepreneurial spirit of Brazilians is the best among everything, that with the levels of superation, of overcoming difficulties that we have. We do not owe anything to anybody. We are very proud. I am very proud to work in a multinational company and to have farmers all over Brazil, in this continent-sized country, seeing these farmers building what they are building the way they are building. As my colleague said, this is a journey, but it is a journey that leads us to success. So thank you very much. Abdalah, your final remarks, and then you come to me. They've already killed us in time. So to further echo what Adriana said, I would like to reiterate this idea of a journey. We had 4 presentations here. Each one touched a piece of the thing. So if you're seeing this for the first time, it may be scary how far this can come. But thinking of things as a journey, every journey starts with the first step. So it's an invitation for the first step. The journey is long. We cannot get scared with its length, but we will only reach the end of the journey if we take the first steps. And I think the digital is there so that we can take the first steps. So now I will mention what is available in the world. Please, quickly, the average age of an European farmer is 62 years. U.S. farmer, 58. Brazilian farmer, 45. And in our Mato Piba, Mato Grosso, Tocantins, Maranhão, Tocantins, Bahia, all this region, the average age is 34. So these young kids are flying, and the machines are becoming increasingly simple and more interactive and easier to operate. Just like a child can operate an iPhone with efficiency, the machines are going the same directions. I would like to make quick observations. Now we have precise plant tilling, georeferencing, production mapping by square meter, that we can have in the harvest map. We can make decisions to correct the soil, correct the seeds, if there is an ant hill, or and then we have a localized spraying. I've also a country that produces and preserves. And it talks a little bit about the state of São Paulo, the most Brazilian state of all, because here all the other states are represented and all the countries in the world are represented here. So I'll talk a little bit about our state. We have a goal to incorporate 1.5 million hectares into our legal reserves or permanent preservation areas. And in the last data we collected, we have we have exceeded 23% of legal reserves when the requirement is 20. And we also have another Brazilian savanna area, which increases the preservation area, but we have a superavit. We don't have a lot, but we have some Brazilian savanna. Thank you very much, Luis Otavio, Adriana, Abdalah. It was a pleasure to have you here in this panel and sharing some experience. And I learned a lot from you because I have a lot more youth than all of you. And I'm very grateful for your presence, and thank you very much.